Is it possible for a nation to be free without its people being free? In other words, is it possible for a nation to be politically free and yet economically colonized? That is the question. And in both cases, the answer is an absolutely yes. Yes, it is possible for a nation to be free without its people being free. Yes, it is possible for a nation to be politically free but economically colonized. And in this regard, Zambia is not yet free. Zambians are not a free people. Zambia has been economically colonized, and therefore, in this era, Zambians need to struggle for economic freedom. Because of a lack of economic freedom, life continues to be harsh, hard, unbearable, and almost unlivable for the vast majority of Zambians. Because Zambia is not yet free. The people have to be woken up from their slumber. The people have to be woken up from their sleep. They need to be told that the struggle for true freedom is not over. The people of Zambia have to realize that they are not free. It is therefore important for all Zambians to unite and start calling for and pursuing economic freedom. But first, Zambians must understand what freedom is and what freedom is not. Zambians have to be shown clearly the ways in which they are not free. Zambians must be shown the ways in which they have been recolonized and overtaken by foreigners working in collaboration and in collusion with a corrupt government system. Our first task is to ensure that Zambians are convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that they are not free. Because that is the only way they are going to stand up and fight for freedom, economic freedom. It is when they realize and accept that they are not free, and we are not free for that matter, that Zambians are going to start the struggle for economic freedom. The struggle for economic freedom is the struggle of our time. It is the struggle of our generation. Freedom is not complete until the people are economically free. Zambia is not yet free, and Zambians are not a free people. Zambia has been economically colonized again, and therefore, in this era, Zambians need economic freedom now more than ever. So why is Zambia not free? Zambians have misunderstood freedom. They have misunderstood freedom to mean just political freedom and no more. They have been led to think of freedom as freedom from being ruled by the white man who once colonized this nation, the British. The Zambians have been misled to understand freedom as the freedom of being able to elect our own black leaders into positions of power once held and occupied by the former white colonial master. And I'm afraid that that is what freedom is to the Zambian, and that is where their definition of freedom ends. But alas, the winning of political freedom is only the first step to freedom. The next step to freedom is economic freedom, and that is the struggle we need to conduct in our generation. Political freedom is not freedom. That is not true freedom. What Zambians have done from the time they elected Chiluba and MMD in 1981 is that they have replaced the white oppressors with black oppressors. They have replaced white dictators with black dictators. And the black dictators have now opened the way for white, Indian, Chinese, and Lebanese, all sorts of foreigners to come back in through the window, not the door, but through the window, to exploit us and colonize us once again. Zambia is not yet free. Zambians are not a free people. Zambia has been economically colonized, and therefore, in this era, Zambians need to struggle for economic freedom. So in what ways are Zambians not free? How do we know that we are not free? How do our people know that they are not free? It is very simple. The first thing is to understand. The first thing is to understand that freedom has two parts. There is political freedom, which was won in 1964, and there is economic freedom, which has never been won. Zambia is not yet free. Of political freedom, we Zambian people have but a very small measure of that. And in any case, political freedom is the freedom only for politicians, not the people. Political freedom is a freedom only for politicians and not the people. It is the freedom enjoyed by the few. It is the freedom enjoyed by these people who are in power, the selfish and corrupt politicians. They are the beneficiaries of political freedom. And our role in political freedom as the people is just to elect and escort politicians to power. Our role is to usher them every 5 years into State House and Parliament, and that is it. They go there to enjoy and we remain outside suffering. What we people need to know now, what we people need in this generation is political freedom. What we need is economic freedom. What we need is economic power. What we need is freedom from poverty. What we need is freedom from hunger. What we need is freedom from disease. What we need is freedom from unemployment. What we need is freedom from inequality and injustice. What we need is freedom from foreign Chinese and Indians who are back to rob our resources and exploit our workers. That is the freedom that we need, not political freedom. We need economic freedom. That is freedom. And until you understand, and until you are free from these things, you are not free as a Zambian. And even political freedom without economic freedom is a less freedom. Political freedom means nothing to you if you are broke, unemployed, homeless, and hungry. Zambia is not yet free. Zambians are not a free people. Zambia has been economically colonized. Zambia, therefore, needs economic freedom. We Zambians have been colonized again, secretly but obviously colonized. It is obvious that we have been colonized when you look at how foreigners, white, Chinese, and Indian, have taken over businesses and banking and mining and industries in this country. Our mines have been lost. Our land is being lost. The biggest farms and industry are being lost. All the big banks that we had, including Zanaco, are now foreign owned. How do you control an economy when you don't own a single bank? Our country is in debt, a debt which us and our children and our children's children can never afford to repay. And debt leads to only one destination: slavery. That is why I'm saying Zambia has been colonized and Zambia needs economic freedom. We are in debt to the tune of over $13 billion. To service these loans, the current government is exploiting people by overtaxing them. Tax, mind you, is a form of exploitation. Zambia is not free. Meanwhile, the majority of Zambians live in poverty. Those in the cities are just as exploited as those in the villages. Those without proper jobs are just as exploited as those with jobs. The school leaver, the graduate, and the uneducated are all suffering. What is political freedom to you people? What is political freedom to the youth who has no job? What is political freedom to the mother who has no means to feed her hungry children? What is political freedom to a sick person who cannot afford to buy expensive medicine for himself or herself? What is political freedom to a farmer, a villager who has nowhere to sell his produce or gets robbed with cheap prices? Zambia is not free. Zambians have been colonized again. Zambia has been economically colonized, and therefore, in this era, our generation needs to struggle for economic freedom. Fellow countrymen and women, comrades and friends, we are not yet free. Spread the word. Tell every Zambian that we, the people, are not yet free. We need economic freedom. We need to take control of our country's resources to better our lives. That is the freedom we need. Economic freedom. We have to unite and struggle for freedom. Freedom from unemployment, freedom from hunger, freedom from ignorance, freedom from exploitation by the foreigners and their local stooges, freedom to be able to live life as we wish to live it. Free from hunger, from disease, and from the worry of being unable to provide for ourselves and our families. That is the economic freedom that we live. That is the economic freedom that we need. Long live the struggle for economic freedom. Long live economic freedom fighters. Long live Zambia. Zambia shall be economically free. A luta continua. Victoria accepted. The struggle continues and victory is certain.